If you feel there's something out there that you're supposed to be doing, if you have a passion for it, then stop wishing and just do it. Wanda Sykes. Last month, I was asked to give a talk at a school about what it's like to make a living as an artist. It was tons of fun to chat with a bunch of high schoolers and to encourage those interested in pursuing a creative career to go for it, but to expect to work extra hard. I answered lots of questions, but one stuck with me for hours after the event, and I wish I could have answered it more thoroughly. This girl asked me, if you could go back in time and give some advice to your younger self with the knowledge you have today, what would this be? I'm always an open book and shared most of the key points that I'll be talking about next, but later in the day, I just felt the urge to crack my journal open and finish up my thoughts. What I'm going to be sharing with you today are the 8 key things that, if I had that superpower to be able to go back in time and provide some solid advice for myself in my younger years, in order to not only reach success as an artist much sooner, but also enjoy myself much more along this complex journey of building up my skills, my knowledge, and also building up a small business based around my art and art skills that could actually be sustainable and could support my life. So moving straight into key piece of advice number 1. And this one is, give yourself permission to create and don't wait for other people's approval or praise. For a very long time in my life, I minimized my skills and passions. My art fell way off to the wayside while I worked hard at what I thought others, like family, society, etc., expected of me. Part of me was, I guess, waiting for some magical human to come along and tell me that I should take up my art practice again and invest time in developing my skills more seriously. But that person never came. It took many years of working regular full-time jobs for me to finally acknowledge that I was unfulfilled, unhappy, and burnt out. I finally arrived at a point at which I decided to take the reins of my life, to do some deep introspection to find out what I actually wanted, and took action on the things that would lead to the life that I actually wanted to be living in the future. It was super scary at first to realize that no one was coming to save me or to make my life better. It was little old me who would have to make a big change, who would have to face the unknown and step away from a life that was familiar and perhaps even safe, but painful at the same time. And as I was reaching 30, I knew that that pain would only get worse and worse. If I wanted anything to change, it would have to start with me. And yes, it was incredibly scary at first to realize that no one was coming, but it's ultimately incredibly empowering to know that you have the power to change your life if you want to. Moving on to the second piece of advice, and this one is, becoming a skilled artist and achieving success is a marathon and not a sprint. Success means different things to different people, and your definition of success will likely change as you continue growing and evolving as an artist. This said, any type or degree of success requires commitment, grit, and lots of courage. It requires prioritizing your goals over a long period of time and consistently getting back up after you've been knocked down to try again, over and over and over. You can try your hardest to rush the process, but it'll likely only lead to frustration and burnout. You can drive yourself crazy trying to reach the finish line when there isn't even one to begin with. It's best to acknowledge and embrace the point that you're currently at. Doesn't matter what life circumstances you're in, doesn't matter what age you are, you simply can't rush your development as an artist. So honor where you're at and take your learning forward incrementally. And remember, great things take time. Slow and steady wins the race. Number 3, Spend time on art fundamentals and only invest in resources that weave them in. Skilled artists know that learning about art fundamentals like elements and principles of art, composition, color theory, light behavior, perspective, etc., is key for creating amazing art that is impactful, that is well balanced, that is harmonious, and that's able to effectively communicate a message, mood, idea, or story. When you skip over learning and improving on these fundamentals, you'll likely won't be able to reach the skill level that you have it in you to reach. You'll be frustrated because you don't know why things aren't working visually, and you can even lack the ability to talk about your art more clearly. All of these things are essential if you want to take your art to a professional level. Lots of people reach out to me frustrated because they've jumped from course to course, have attended live workshops for years, or have gone through many different books that leave them right where they started, still unable to create original artwork and frequently underwhelmed with the results. If you're really looking to make progress as an artist, and art isn't just something that you're doing as a fun hobby, when you invest in any type of resource for your learning, make sure that A, the fundamentals are weaved in, B, actual reference photos are provided whenever needed. And with reference photos, I don't mean the instructor's finished illustration or artwork. I mean the actual photograph, the real life thing that the artist was actually looking at when she or he was creating that drawing or that painting. And the reason I say this is because if only photos of the finished pieces created by another artist are provided as a reference, not only is that another artist's finished work that you are copying, but you're not actually going through the full process of digesting that visual information and turning it into your own thing, because that visual information has already been digested and processed by someone else. And C, the instructor is explaining the why behind her or his actions. Look for instructors or authors who teach you how to fish and not just provide the fish for you. And if they know what they're doing and really care about your success, it's always going to come back to the fundamentals in some shape, way, or form. Number 4, don't stress about finding your art style. You don't actually find an art style. Your art style and voice are already inside of you, but they must be uncovered and developed, which can only happen through tuning out the noise, putting your blinders on, listening to yourself, and going through the process of creation over and over again. These are developed via continuing to expand your knowledge about art, discovering yourself as an artist, honing your skills, and developing your very own creative process. If you focus on these things, as well as on peeling back those layers that make you you, I promise you that your art style will come as a result, naturally, organically, without you even having to try or push for it. And by the way, if you haven't been working on your art consistently for at least a year, in my opinion, you shouldn't even be worrying about this at all. Number 5, schedule in your art time and set goals. As creatives, a lot of us struggle with having lots of different ideas for projects we want to work on and skills we want to continue developing. It's easy to fall into feeling scattered, overwhelmed, and lost, to the point that we don't do anything at all, or we move forward incredibly slowly. I struggled with this for years until I understood that it was important to set goals and to actually schedule in the time that I would be working on my art during the week, just like any other commitment or non-negotiable that I had to take care of. Realize and always remember that making time for your own personal goals and honoring what is important to you is key to your happiness and fulfillment, and will have a positive impact on all other areas of your life. And for lots of us, learning to set goals is a process. We need to learn to be specific, to be practical, and to stay focused on the next step that is right for us. Moving on to number 6, and this one is, don't wait for inspiration to start creating. Instead, focus on building discipline. Sure, inspiration can be nice, but it's also fickle, fleeting, and simply unreliable. Artists who are serious about improving must develop the discipline to create, even when they don't feel like it or lack inspiration. It's through this discipline that art making becomes a habit for us. And habits are needed for consistency and momentum. This is how art becomes just something that we do, as opposed to something that we wait to get inspired to do or think of doing when we're bored or have lots of free time in our hands. It's also super important to realize that oftentimes inspiration comes as you're working. So what's important is that you just get started. Even if you have 10 minutes to work on your art, create a quick sketch, work on something, anything. Little things really do add up. And as long as you keep taking those small steps consistently, you'll be building up that habit. Number 7, don't be swayed by other people's limiting beliefs. So many of us grow up in families and societies that don't consider the arts important, or simply grow up hearing that it's not a viable or safe career path. We also grow up hearing these romanticized versions of artists' lives. Artists who created their most amazing pieces out of suffering, depression, or even madness, or the starving artist who was never able to sell a painting in his life and became well known only after his death. Well, do have in mind that for every well-known artist who might have gone through something like this, there were tons of other artists who were able to make at least a sustainable living through their work, and also artists who drew their inspiration from joy, from love, from light. We just don't hear about these people as much, or don't tend to hear about these kinds of stories because they're not as strange or grim. The fact of the matter is that there has never been a better time to be an artist, as there are so many ways to get your work out there, to grow your name, and to start providing value for others via your art and artistic skills. Nowadays, there are artists and creatives of all kinds making a great living for themselves, and there is room for everyone. And the final key thing that I would tell myself if I could go back in time and provide some advice to my younger self would be, your mind is and will continue being your biggest enemy. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, negative self-talk, uncertainty, comparisonitis, shiny object syndrome, and the like are all challenges that you'll continue having to deal with. These come in not only in the beginning of your journey, but all throughout it. Even when you become highly skilled, and even when you've busted through all of these personal milestones and goals, you can expect to continue having to overcome these challenges. Why? Because you're a human being, and human beings are incredibly complex. And this is why it is imperative that along with building your cold artistic skills and continuing to develop yourself as an artist, you continue developing a strong mindset that is going to help support you along your path. Because being an artist is challenging on so many levels. And if your mindset is working against you, it's going to be extra difficult to reach your goals. And it's a lot more likely that you're going to give up. Continue feeding your mind positive, helpful messaging. Continue learning from artists who have gone through this and have achieved success. Continue taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul, because this is what will help sustain you over time and what will ultimately be the foundation for your success. Continue holding on to that vision you have for yourself and for your life, and keep it in the forefront of your mind through all the ups and downs that this beautiful journey will bring with with it and give it everything you've got, because you have awesome things coming your way if you do. All right, you guys, that is gonna do it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful. And if you did, pretty please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, because it really helps support the work that I am doing here on YouTube and helps others get to know about my channel. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that little bell so that you can be notified of when I share my new videos, which happens every single week. Have a beautiful rest of the day and see you soon. Bye, guys.